Hey guys, it's Dr. Delvina, the queen of brain love, board certified psychiatrist in South Florida. And you know, it's time for another talk chat on my couch. I'm holding this book by my guest, Sonny Etienne, Life Sucks or Does It? He's joining me on the couch tonight, and we're going to talk to you about introspective, perspective, and just living life and making yourself happier. Are you ready to take the couch?
Really needs to be felt. Turn me on, don't make me feel on myself. Brain food, brain sleep, neurology, health. Brain love on me. I need you to assess, diagnose, and treat. Reveal what's underneath. Some brain love will give me peace. Prescribe me some doc. Ooh, baby. Brain love on me. Brain love. Yes. Brain love. Yes. Brain love.
Hi, Sonny.
How we doing there, Doc?
Are you ready to take the couch?
I'm on it.
All right, so what do I have here?
You hold in your hands my first book.
Your first book.
It's the debut from Introspective Books, Life Sucks or Does It? Soul Searching from the Inside Out.
And so S.U.C.K.S looks like an acronym. Does S.U.C.K.S stand for anything?
Sure does. S.U.C.K.S is S, sad, U, unfair, C, chaotic or cruel, and K is knowable, and S is for senseless. So life is sad, unfair, chaotic, and cruel, and knowingly senseless affair.
Wow. So only when you realize with your real eyes will you incite insight on how to live life. Allow me to say that again. Only when you realize with your real eyes will you incite insight on how to live life. What do you mean by real eyes?
What I mean by real eyes is just that we are more than just a brain. Our brain is our gift, but within that is the consciousness, which is another pair of eyes that we can all use to view this life with. That then enables us to look at life through the level of spiritual understanding, which is another acronym that we'll cover at some point in today's sit down.
Okay, yes, and I will make a few notes to myself so that we remember to go back to certain things. Birth was not your choice, how you live is. And I think that really applies to a lot of people because there is a significant amount of people in this world who are the result of certain circumstances. And a lot of children or people are here, I don't want to say by mistake, but not intentionally conceived. It wasn't intentional. And sometimes people are born into situations that are very sad, dire, worrisome, just tremendously awful, if you will. And, you know, I was just talking to a friend the other night about how we raise our children, how we create these individuals, and how we cause them to develop in a certain way, in a certain manner. So when I read that birth was not your choice, how you live is, you don't have any control of the life you were born into or what God created for you or the hand you were dealt. But you got to play that hand.
You got it. I think Tupac said it best with the rose that grew out of concrete. I didn't ask to be placed in this particular location of the neighborhood, but it's where I was placed. I think Stevie Wonder echoes a similar statement in the song As. God knew exactly where he wanted you to be placed. And so though you were born into a particular condition, or if not situation, these are the cards you were dealt, but how you choose to play that hand is entirely an issue of perspective. Again, which eyes are we looking at our tough, difficult hardship through? Is it with our natural eyes, which I could call our traumatized, our victimized, or is it with our spiritual eyes, the eyes of the soul?
And the name of the book, Life Sucks or Does It? Right? Because that's a play again on perspective.
Totally,
Because it doesn't have to suck.
No, it doesn't, not at all.
Wow. So let's dig into this. I mean, So what gave you the motivation to write this book, to write about this and to teach people about perspective?
I'm so happy. Well, it was this book, as I stated in the preface, was long in coming. There was always a book in me. It was just a matter of when and what did I want to say and how did I want to say it. And so COVID was the time. The time was ripe. I had lost an aunt to COVID. I almost lost a cousin to COVID. There were countless clients, new clients coming in. So I was just being inundated by grief. Life sucked. That was it, Dr. T. Life sucked. Of course, who could forget the summer of 2020? Yeah. With all the killings, at the hands of, law enforcement. It was just like, golly. And then, of course, the war hit. Mm-hmm. It was like, goodness gracious, it's just ceaseless. It just doesn't stop. Yeah. And it's a thought that's been with me for years. It's a thought that I've looked at, particularly just growing up myself, in an urban environment, and just looking at some of the injustices, looking at some of the disparities. And then as you get into your field or what have you, you're looking at it now on a more global scale, and you're having to address it. And you have to sit back and say, golly, life is really unfair. It rains on the just and the unjust, but I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be born. I think about this young man who came to my office with his father. He was getting in trouble with the law. And his father and I were telling him about, the consequences that he could potentially face. And he said, why do you guys care? And, I was taken aback by it, but I've heard kids say this thing before. The father was really taken aback when his son said to him, I didn't ask to be born. You and mom decided to have me. I didn't ask for this. Wow. And so the father says, so what if in one of your house robberies someone shoots you? They'll be doing me a favor, Dad.
Oh, man. Like, I know that hurt him deep in his soul.
Could you imagine?
I can't.
Yeah. But I bring it up to say that these are the realities that we do face with our real eyes, But my goal was, okay, how do we get past the pain, the loss, the chaos, the cruelty, what we know to be senseless? How do we get past it?
So I don't want to gloss over that example you gave, because so many times we hear children talk like that. They misinterpret what's happening in the household, and sometimes they don't. So in that example, that young man, was he being raised by both his mom and dad? Were his parents together?
Ironically, I've been this kid's therapist since he was like 14. His parents were separated. Okay. And he's kind of been bounced around between two homes. But he's a kid who kind of has just been on this trajectory that we were just trying to divert him and get him off of. But, how he perceives life certainly is taking shape. And in my work, and I think, of course, your work, is a lot of times we're just trying to just provide a different lens that this young person can look at life through. Because if they're looking at it through, and I remember in some of our sessions, we actually talked about what it was like when his parents broke up and how that broke him in some ways.
It's very devastating. Just sidebar, when parents split up and divorce, it's devastating to children. Yeah. You rip their whole world apart.
Yeah, I mean, in my book, I actually talked about 1986. I vividly remember, taking the elevator up to some floor. It was my first time in a courtroom. And it was there I saw my father for like the second time in my life. And we were there for a divorce proceeding.
Oh, my.
And I just remember sitting in the elevator and looking at my mom, seeing her cry. And at that moment, it became clear to me, I got to grow up and become a man.
1986, how old were you?
I was 8 years old at the time. Yeah. So I'm a product of divorce. Yeah.
Yeah, it's traumatizing.
Sure is. Yeah.
So I want to go back to the young man, because as I was stating, I have a case like this now where, children and teenagers and young adults are so negative. Yeah. Like that young man said to his father, why would you care if I got shot, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing on what he said. The negativity, what do you think it's rooted in? Where does it come from?
Eminem said in his song, If I Had, he said, I can't speak on positivity when there's just negativity all around me. So if negativity is all I see, that's what I'm going to rap about. So again, this is what I see.
So was this kid seeing a lot of negativity?
Yeah, he was seeing a lot of negativity. But part of it is also he put himself around a lot of negativity. But I don't see it as negative. I just see it as like, I'm young, I got time, I'm having fun, get off my back, stop telling me what to do. I'm going to eventually get it together. A lot of kids, I think, do think what you see as negative is part of youth culture. It's just part of me just going through the stages of change.
Yeah. When I think about growing up, I was born in 1976.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'm a 76er too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. 1976 was a good year. It was
it's a
3
good
years
year.
after Songs in the Key of Life came out by Stevie Wonder.
That's why it's mentioned so much in the
Yes,
book.
yeah, you referenced that as, and I was like, yes, yes, that's one of my favorite songs by Stevie Wonder.
I just bought the vinyl.
Oh,
2 weeks ago.
nice, nice,
Yeah,
nice.
just got the vinyl.
Awesome. So I think about growing up in a two-parent household. I think about the discipline that my parents forced upon my brothers and me. And I think, and even as a child and a teenager growing up, I was always so grateful to have two parents who cared about me and cared enough to enforce rules. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that children don't get enough of these days, is that parents are not enforcing rules and setting limits.
I think what you're saying is actually on point. I'm trained in a particular therapeutic model called MST, which is for multi-systemic therapy. This is an approach that focuses on helping the youth, but within the ecology. So it looks at the kid within the scope of who he or she is as within the family, within the school, within the peer group, and also within the community, and also individually, who is that youth? Yeah. This model is very holistic. A similar model is called FFT, Family Functional Therapy. And so that model tries to help the parents become more effective in how they are raising and training the child. We know the old biblical adage, train up a child. But part of that training, I think, when we talk about rules, we can't forget roles. I think a lot of times when there's issues between the parents, the roles get really confused, thus there goes the rules. Because we can't even agree on our roles.
Ooh, so let's dig into that, because there's been a lot of debate on social media about roles. Now, are we talking gender roles, or what are we talking here when you say roles?
We're talking in terms of parenting style.
Yeah.
Who's the disciplinarian? Are we both disciplining? Do we agree on the discipline?
Okay.
And moreover, do we have a common shared vision as far as how we want our child to mature?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I tell my adults, when you're dating someone, you want to have the conversation about discipline, how you plan to discipline your child, what you believe in, what you believe is effective. Do you endorse sparing the rod spoils the child? Do you understand that concept?
Yeah.
Because it really is, I mean, it's a real if you spare the rod, you spoil the child, and you don't teach the child anything. They learn that there are no consequences.
Well, since we're speaking of this iteration of ours, we can add rod to it. And rod here can be something more than just corporal punishment.
Yes.
That rod can be just when a man uses his voice in the right way. Not aggressive, but assertively.
Right. We don't have to take the Bible so literally, is what you're saying.
From it, no.
Yes.
And we could take that rod and utilize it in terms of, okay, we're going to sit down and we're going to learn about the law. Let's understand American history. You know, I just posted something yesterday showing, it was the lynching museum. And let's take a look at what black men and black women as well have gone through in this country. Let's have understanding.
Was that on TikTok?
Yeah.
I shared that today.
I just came from Alabama. I was just there last week. Yeah.
So that museum in Alabama, my cousin told me about that museum.
Oh, it's quite the experience.
Oh, I want to go.
Yeah,
I would like to go.
Yeah. But I was saying that because I think then, going back to Rod, if two parents are aligned, then we can now guide this young person by educating this young person. A lot of it really is education. Let's go back to that young man. That same day, because he was in and out of DJJ, and I sat down. We had to talk about the school to prison pipeline.
Yeah.
And then he started chiming in. Yeah, I could see it, because I'm down at the JAC, the Juvenile Assessment Center. I'm down at the tent, and I see it. Yeah, it's like it's preparing us. It's setting us up to eventually get locked up. And it's okay. So you're educated here.
Yeah.
Let's work with that. So a lot of times it's really trying to get the parents to come to the back door, not always to the front door, just yelling and scolding.
Right.
But it's more so molding.
You got to
holding that kid.
teach. Right. You have
parents
to teach.
Have to be teachers. That's part of the role.
And communicate.
And that's where I think a lot of parents get it wrong. I was with a guy the other day.
Exactly.
He loves his kid. He loves his son. His approach, however, is over the top. And his son was crying. His son came to me. He was like, I don't want to do no therapy. This is stupid. I don't want to do it. And I said, and the mom was like, Sonny, he needs to talk to you. And I said, come here, kid. Come here, kid. You're not good, are you? Man, I'm straight. I said, you're not good, kid. And he broke down. So I sat down with the father. I said, your kid loves you. But your kid, he doesn't feel like he can talk to you. Sonny, man, I'm trying to talk. And I'm like, Dad.
That part.
Dad.
Yeah.
And I showed them a scene from the movie He Got Game. It's with Denzel and Ray Allen.
Yes.
And it's when Denzel plays the character of his father who wants his kid to be a good basketball player, but he's too hard.
Yeah.
Ironically, when I was showing the kid and his mother the scene, they both broke down. When I told the dad about the scene, I know the scene. I said, Dad,
Yeah.
your rod is too hard. You can keep your roll, but you got to slow your roll down a little bit with how you approach him.
And just try to just communicate, talk.
And here's something I always tell parents, you know, and it goes back to one of the principles of the introspective perspective. It is foresight. Don't just look at your 14-year-old. I want you to see 24-year-old. How is he going to talk to you then if you guys couldn't talk now?
Exactly.
Don't just react based on the now.
Right. Right. So, on your book, you say Motown legend Diana Ross asked, do you know where you are going? And do you like what life is showing you? For many, life can be sad, unfair, chaotic, and knowingly senseless. But as Carl Jung wrote, quote, it all depends on how we look at things and not how they are in themselves, close quote. An introspective perspective is one way of keeping you from losing your head when life pushes you close to the edge. And I just wanted to read that because I think it's a great takeaway that everyone should have. Perspective is everything in life. Perspective is everything, right? Because you can have a perspective, you can have a negative perspective, and you can also adopt a positive perspective in how something happens. Example, I had a third interview set up for today and they canceled. And someone was supposed to come and assist, and he goes, don't you hate when people cancel on you last minute? Blah. And I said, no, there's a reason. I mean, she had to cancel, she had to cancel.
Yeah.
Why am I going to get my panties all in a bunch? There's nothing I can do about it. She had to cancel. So I try not to allow a lot of things to make me unsettled or to knock me off course, or I just don't have the emotional bandwidth for it.
I think that approach is very healthy.
Yeah.
Because your perspective now has now protected and preserved your mind. You know, I was talking earlier to someone today about just hypertension and how we have to be mindful, not just of what we eat in terms of our sodium intake, but also in terms of what we allow to enter into these portals to get us riled up.
Yeah.
And so, again, perspective. So that perspective that you chose, and that's why it says life is how we choose it. We choose a perspective to look at life through. Makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. So I have this book here, guys. I want everyone to read this book and to listen to this book on Audibles. This book is on Audibles.
It is, yeah.
And it's such a great book to listen to on Audibles. It's very entertaining. Just how you heard Sonny reference a movie, reference singers and songs, he does that in the Audible as well. So, you know, we have limited time. I want to jump right into suicide.
Let's go.
There are so many people, more people killing themselves, including our children, more than ever before. More than ever before.
Yeah.
So in these next couple of minutes, let's convince kids and teens and adults and young adults that suicide is not the answer.
Gotcha, yeah. Throughout the book, I close out every chapter with a quote from Helen Keller. Also, in chapter 5, there's a particular painting by Lucilio Albuquerque called The Madre Poetas, and it's that of a wet nurse, teenage Brazilian young lady who was used to breastfeed the children of Brazilian aristocrats. Between Helen Keller and The Madre Poetas, which is in Portuguese the Black Mother, it is that of, she would have every reason to say life sucks. Helen Keller, you're talking about, you know, of course, hearing impaired, you know, visually impaired. And yet, this woman goes on to live a prolific life and write and inspire generations to come. The Maya Poetess, if you go to that picture, you'll see here she is, and she's, breastfeeding this child that isn't even hers. But yet, her eyes are on this other child who presumably is her child. And that keeps her going. To those who are contemplating suicide, who are looking at life from the angle of life is sad, life is unfair, I didn't ask for this, it's chaotic, look all the crap that's going on in the world. I mean, you know it, I know it, it's senseless, it's pointless, it's meaningless. I would say you're only looking at it through one lens. You haven't continued to go through the various lenses as an optometrist would until they find that clarity. We all know the song, I can see clearly now the rain is gone. Gone are the cloudy days. The cloudy days are when you're only looking at it through just that one angle. I say stay in the chair and allow the optometrist to continue to go through the various lenses until it starts to make sense.
It gets better.
It gets better.
It gets better.
Yeah.
I can tell you, we all go through things. We all have challenges. I've had so many challenges as a little girl growing up, being around people who created challenges for me growing up. And I would just tell myself it'll get better. When I get older, it'll be better, or this won't last forever. I don't know how and why God blessed me the way that he did to be able to see things from that lens or through that lens. But that's what I really believed. And I try to share that with patients, as I know you do. You try to share with your patients that things don't last forever. And they get better.
You said something that's very important. I said. There's an old saying, watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habit. And watch your habits, they become character. Character, and character becomes destiny. But it started off with watch our thoughts. And that's what this book is all about. For those who are contemplating suicide, watch those suicidal thoughts. Look at them. They're not telling the truth.
No.
They're not telling you or showing you the full picture. They're forcing you to make a permanent decision for a temporary problem.
Yeah.
And so verbalizing, and sometimes we don't have the right words. That's why I quote singers. Sometimes they will give you the right words.
And you say in here, I believe music is necessary for your healing process, which is why I designed this book to be read, watched, and heard.
That's right.
And I'm with you. And I think the reason why I love this book so much is because I love music. I love music with my whole soul.
Good.
Like, my life story is based around songs. And I know a year something happened because of a song or because of some artist or whatever. So that was one reason why this book really resonated with me. And saying that, people are probably listening and saying, during the times that they feel like life isn't worth living, during the times that they feel that the only answer is to kill themselves, they can't think of anything else. And so I remind patients, you have to look ahead and prepare ahead and think ahead. If you ever had one suicidal thought, more than likely you'll have another.
Yeah.
And you gotta prepare and be ready to address the recurring suicidal thinking or the thought when it comes back again. You got to be able to say something back to yourself to pour yourself away from that thought.
Yeah. Some folks struggle with not having the words, That's why I do encourage everyone out there, please find a therapist. Because similar to the songs, a therapist, unlike just a singer, is not just going to come with harmonies and with the lyrics, but they're going to come with techniques. They're going to come with various models that have been tested and proven over time to help with not just suicidal thoughts, but intrusive thoughts, racing thoughts, self-depreciating thoughts. There's a variety of thoughts that we have. And therapy has a variety of methods that are designed to counteract those thoughts.
And finding a good therapist is important. You want someone who has a skill set.
Yeah.
Someone who seems to take an organized, strategic approach during your sessions.
And let me just add on to that. It's not just therapy, because there are some cases in which what a person is struggling with, of course, is more so neurological. Hence, the need for speaking with a psychiatrist, the right psychiatrist who can understand where you're coming from and work with your therapist to provide you the medicine that could perhaps be helpful. You know,
Yeah.
I know sometimes folks, look at medicine and they automatically think, I don't want to go that route. However, there are cases in which just talking to someone may not be enough. You may need psychiatric medication to address whatever underlying problems you may be going through
Yeah.
that may be more so with the brain than just an issue of just my soul. It's, I may have a condition that needs to be treated with psychiatric medication. So definitely want to put that out there as well.
I love that. I love that. Medications get such a bad rap.
Yeah.
They get such a bad rap. And so if you it's like finding a great therapist, you have to find an effective psychiatrist or specialist of medication. If it's someone who's just throwing a lot of stuff at you and high doses or not explaining, because sometimes you don't know if it's a high dose. So ensure that your doctor's explaining to you what they're giving you and why. Explaining to you what the possible risks are and what the benefit would be and the dose range and why they're starting you on this dose or that dose. And if they don't have time to do it, then that's not the doctor for you. So I'm just tabbing through the book because it's such a good book. I know we don't have time to go over everything. Is there anything in this book that we didn't touch on that in the last few moments that we have?
Sure.
Look at what I landed on.
What's that?
Chapter 7, What is a Man?
What is a man?
We got to do this one because, you were just on
I was just
the
on the
men's
show,
health panel, the men's mental health panel, and
Yeah.
it was, we've done 3 panels, and this one was the best panel.
Yeah, so,
It was the best.
I was happy to be a part of it.
You were there for part 2 back in July. You were in the audience.
Yeah, I sure was. Yeah, I was there for both actually.
Yes.
It came for both. Yeah.
Okay. Part 1 and part 2?
Part 1 and no, part 1. I was there for part 1.
Part 2 you came.
Was it part 2?
Yeah, that was July. Part 1 was in June.
Gotcha. Then it was part 2.
I know. I produced the show. Okay. Really, before
What
we
is
get
a
out of
man?
here, what
Yeah.
is a man?
For me, what is a man is simply coming of age. And coming of age means allowing yourself to open yourself to studying and learning about, in the words of Bob Marley, if you knew where you were coming from, then you wouldn't have to ask me, who do I think I am? So I think you have to really, really learn about your past through your family members, if you want to do a genealogy test. So it starts with learning the history. Why is this so important? Because what we're doing is we have to define the man in order to find the man. And so throughout this particular chapter, I make a lot of references to various angles of how one can develop their manhood, because it's all about definition. But the one conversation in this chapter in particular that I'm really happy I used was a speech given by Dr. King. Not one of his more popular speeches, but it's one in which you must define your manhood. He says, if the Negro is to be freed, then he must reach into the inner bowels of his soul and come out with a self-assertive definition of his own manhood. And for me, that is something that we touched on at the men's panel the other day, and that is introspection, which is what my whole practice is all predicated upon.
Yeah.
One has to spend time with oneself as one defines oneself. And that means I can borrow from other people and get ideas from others, but that doesn't mean that's who I am. I think when we first saw Kobe Bryant come out, automatically we were like, okay, there goes a carbon copy of MJ. And we had seen a bunch of them at that point. But over time, you started seeing Kobe grew an afro. Kobe started working on his three-point game because he was trying to say, okay, how do I distinguish myself?
How do I set myself apart from MJ, who is the GOAT, by the way?
Okay, that's arguable, but okay. But he was trying to separate himself, even though he needed a blueprint to follow. Over time, Kobe separated himself on some level from MJ so that he wasn't always walking in that particular shadow. So I think, for all the men out there, for all the young guys out there, I have a lot of male clients, and a lot of them come to me for this very reason. Sonny, help me. I don't understand what it is to be a man. I had this one guy tell me once, Sonny, no one ever taught me even how to tie a tie. And it was a telehealth session. I said, go to your closet, grab a tie. And he came back, and I guided him through the whole process, and he broke down crying. This guy was in his 30s. And he said to me, no one's ever done that.
Profound.
So what is it to be a man? Great song, new edition called Boys to Men. Not the group, but the song, Boys to Men. Listen to that song.
I cry when I hear that song. Yeah. I do.
You got a son, right?
Yes.
There we go, Boys to Men.
Yeah.
Boys to Men.
My son is 27, thank God.
Gotcha.
The work, that is the hardest job I've ever had, is to be a parent.
Yeah.
The hardest job I've ever had.
And it's hard raising a man, and particularly in this country.
Yeah.
You know, but I think, you know, you and those who are around him, the village, that's all part of how he comes of age and how he becomes a man.
Yeah.
I think there's just too many rhetoric out there right now.
Yeah.
This is what a man is. You're a high value man. You're this type of man. There's
Yeah.
so much talk. No, figure out how to be a man by finding the things that fit your value system. Because that's ultimately what's going to define you as a man. What are your values? What is important to you?
If you don't mind, I'd like to close by reading
Sure.
3 paragraphs from your book.
Good. Go for it.
The idea of womanhood or manhood can come from anywhere, including from spiritual sources. Religious traditions and spiritual disciplines have been the home court of many men throughout history, and they can be yours as well. Finding faith in something other than yourself is instrumental to your inner development. Allow me to repeat that. Finding faith in something other than yourself is instrumental to your inner development. Jesus is an example of someone who won the internal war. He asked his followers, "Who do men say that I am?" Jesus asked the question even though he knew who he was. See, before starting his healing tour, Jesus faced the devil alone in a wilderness while fasting for 40 days. The devil called Jesus' identity into question. 3 times Jesus made it clear to Satan, "Don't tell me who I am. I know who I am." The devil was not the only one who continually questioned Jesus about his identity during his adult life. Religious leaders and political figures had a problem with Jesus, but he remained as confident with them as he had with the devil. He did not need anyone telling him who he was, especially haters who would later kill him because of who he said he was. Jesus did not conform to others' definition of him, and neither should you. What would Jesus do? WWJD. Have others conform to your definition of yourself rather than the other way around? You may not be Jesus, but you are a man or woman. You are a human. If you commit to introspection, over time you should know who you are, and life should make more sense because you are self-defined. Gem dropping. Gem dropping.
Yeah.
This is on page 93, and it's in that chapter, What is a Man? And, you know, if you want to start the book by reading that chapter, you wouldn't be wrong.
Yeah.
But go back to the beginning
Yeah.
and start the book from the beginning.
Great.
In closing, what would you say to people watching or listening?
Oh, I would say to them what I told a group of kids last week in Alabama, and that is the great Teddy Pendergrass penned a song right before his major car accident. And the song is called This Gift of Life. What you know about that, though?
Child.
About Teddy.
Teddy.
But Teddy hit it on the nail. In that song, Teddy is just reflecting on how grateful he is.
Yeah.
Of course, he had a string of hits after hits,
Yeah.
only to end up paraplegic in a chair confined to a chair for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
But in that song, he is reflecting and celebrating life. No different from Nina Simone in her song, Ain't Got No, I Got Life. She starts off complaining, I ain't got this, and I ain't got this, and I ain't got that. And then she just pauses. And then she just starts saying, I got my hands, got my fingers, got my toes, and then she started realizing everything that she had. And by
what
doing
mattered.
so, and what really mattered.
Yes.
She had life.
Yeah.
I got soul. You know, so on the cover, there's a symbol of an interrobang. And for those who probably won't figure it out, that is my homage to Nina Simone. Because she taught us, and particularly black folks, love yourself. Accept who you are. Know who you are. Be who you are. And don't be anything else but that. This life is a gift. It's a gift that we must treasure. And we must give an account for it. You know, we've been given it, let's not waste it. And so, more than life sucks, life is all about soul. I told you I'd bring you back there.
Yeah.
The soul for me is another acronym. The Spiritual Observatory for Understanding Life. That's how we understand life. And that's how life starts to make sense despite all of its atrocities. Another great book that I would recommend to anyone out there wrestling is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Here's a guy who for 3 years was in the concentration camp of the Nazi Germany. And he was able to, as he put it, tear into his soul and find this new meaning. Billy Joel says in the song It's All About Soul, how to find joy out of the sorrow. And it can't come from just these natural eyes, because this natural eyes will tell us otherwise.
Yeah.
No, it has to come from our other eyes.
Listen, those are the last words. Say brain love.
Brain love.
Brain love.
For more brain love on the couch with board-certified psychiatrist Dr. Delvina, make sure you follow on Instagram at Dr. Delvina and at DRT Brain Love. Also, make sure you tune into the Brain Love podcast, airing each and every Sunday at 8 p.m. with a new episode on all